myself. Everything a little, nothing right. I fall by the wayside, 'cause I've been treading water, and I did not even bother fumbling through. I always took the easy way until I went astray. But now it's time, I won't turn around. No, I won't turn around.
Hello, one and all, to another Sam Ash Music live stream. So whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, just want to first and foremost say, whatever we discuss, please ask questions. Type in the comments any question you might have, and we'll be happy to try and answer them for you. But today is a very interesting one, because while we've been talking about product in the past, we never talk about the software element of things. So thankfully, this week, we have our friends from Steinberg coming in to talk about Cubase, a very popular, very powerful DAW, direct audio, digital audio workstation, however you prefer to pronounce it. But let me introduce our master of ceremonies, our sensei, our guru of all things Cubase, Greg Ondo. Greg, welcome to the stream.
Hi, good to be here.
So Greg, for those of you that don't know, like I said, he knows everything about Cubase. He does a regular live stream about Cubase, but he's been very kind to lend his talents to us today, and hopefully in the future as well. And as you know from the title, we're going to be discussing how to produce EDM and hip hop tracks with some techniques used in Cubase. And I think for all of those that are out there that are looking for more expansive ways to make their productions even better, Greg's going to have every answer and every question answered for you. So if you're just watching, you're like, I wonder how, he probably already answered it. And if you didn't answer it, ask any time. Literally, just whether it's right now or later, we're happy to answer. Greg, from what I understand, Greg is very difficult to stump on anything Cubase. The guy might as well have written the code. So without further ado, or actually, sorry, there is a little bit of further to do. I have to be honest. So one of the great things about this, like most of our live streams, is we are giving away something. So 2 people will have the opportunity to win a free pair of Yamaha HPH MT5 headphones. So if you want to enter, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, it should be in the description. And just enter it. There are many ways to enter. The more ways to enter, the more ways to win. And we'll be picking 2 people at the end of this live stream to get those headphones. And we'll reach out to you after the stream in order to figure out where we're sending them to. So now without further ado, now that I've gotten all that stuff out of the way, we can get to the good stuff. So Greg, tell us about yourself. Tell us what we're in store for today.
So my name is Greg Ondo. So I've worked with Steinberg over 28 years, representing Cubase, and it's been, wonderful. But we're going to take a look at some kind of special use cases that we see for people that are doing a lot of EDM and hip hop, that kind of solve a lot of problems that they run into when starting and creating their pieces of music.
So, and by the way, I should mention, obviously, you can purchase Cubase at samash.com. We have the artist version and the pro version. Correct me if I'm wrong, is there a free trial way to access Cubase by any respect?
There is a free trial version. So there's a Cubase Elements version, which also has a trial version, and a Cubase Pro. So if you have a USB E license, or you could try out the Pro version for 30 days as well.
So that's great. So if anybody wants to, I would recommend getting at least the Elements. Granted, after today, you may end up getting the Pro or Artist because you're just so enthralled by Greg's advice. And so we hope you consider getting it. But we've got a lot of interesting things. Now, I should also mention that as we go forward, we're going to be going into different genres as well, next time, hopefully, that Greg can join us. Today, it's just going to be EDM and hip hop. So he's going to show more beat making related stuff, more production related stuff, as far as the things that EDM and hip hop require to make those tracks do well and hopefully get in the top Billboard charts. So let's bring up the screen. And I think the first thing we should discuss going into is utilizing the chord track. Now, Greg, could you explain what the chord track is?
So the chord track allows us to kind of set the harmonic structure of a song. And this is one of the questions I see a lot, and you see it a lot in social media, where it's like, oh, now I have to understand music theory to be a producer. So we wanted to kind of simplify that process. So we could right click and choose to add a track, and we could have a chord track. So if I'm starting off maybe a song and I have just maybe a beat, and I wanted to come up with a chord progression for that, all I would have to do is I'll say I'll play my beat.
Greg, do you mind if you can pull up the screen? Because right now it's just you and I talking. So
Okay.
that way we can have some context. And that way I'll share the screen
again. Sorry.
No problem. Sounds great.
All right, so I don't, okay, so we'll just do the application window. So here I'm just seeing in the share screen, I could do the entire screen, and we'll see if that.
Totally up to you. If you want to do application or if you want to do
it's allowing me to share the screen here. So I see the application window, but I thought we had the screen from before. Let me just try one more time.
No problem. Look, guys, technical difficulties can happen. That's totally all right, and that's totally normal.
I'll just...
While we're figuring this out, if anyone has questions just about Steinberg or Cubase, we're happy to answer them as well. Did you try to stop sharing the screen previously?
No, but so I'll go to the share screen. Okay, and then I can see my entire, the Cubase is not showing up in the application tab, but I'll see if I can do my entire screen.
There we go.
And can you see the Cubase now?
I see it wonderfully, and so will everybody else.
All
so
right.
Awesome. So this is everybody. If you're not familiar, this is Cubase. This is what it looks like. It's familiar if you've ever used any digital audio workstation, but it's unique. And this is where Greg's going to show us how unique it is and why it might be for you. So Greg, take us through what you were about to say with the utilizing
so we just kind of start off with a beat, and I wanted to add some chords to my song. So I'll just kind of grab my pencil tool in the chord track and say I want to start off with an F chord. So I will just, then I could add a chord to the next bar. And we could kind of hear these chord changes. And let's say I wanted to end on a C7th chord. So we get kind of an idea of the progression. But if we don't know a good chord to go between, let's say, the B flat and the C7 chord, what we could do is actually go to the chord assistant, and we could look at it based on proximity, and the program will make kind of musical suggestions for us. Or we could do it based on the circle of fifths, and we could just kind of rotate around.
Oh, that's sophisticated.
And we could also just say, I want it to be common notes with different levels of complexity. So it's saying, okay, let's do a G minor chord that it suggested. And as I listen to this, I could say, if we give it to a guitar player and they generally don't like the key of F, we could just transpose, and now it's going to play in a key of E. So the same exact chord progression.
So you can change the
tuning. Also try different chord voicings. So instead of playing very simple chords, we could say, let's just do like second inversions. So it's the same chords, just voiced differently.
Oh, that's cool.
And one of the great things is if I actually wanted this on a part, I could just drag from the chord track directly to a MIDI part, and it's going to make those MIDI. It's going to make MIDI parts for us based on the chords that we just did. So
That's
now we have
wild.
real live editable MIDI information.
So you basically just shortened the length of having to do music theory and essentially making it so that let's say it just sounds good to your ear, which a lot of hip hop and EDM producers that I've met, they don't honestly know, like, and nothing again, it's not the case with everybody, but there are some that are like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just pressing a button and magically pops up and sounds good. Some of the best music out there has been made by mistake. And so it's cool to see that you can make those fun mistakes sometimes. But if you're like, okay, it needs to sound like this, you just in Cubase made it super easy to do it like that.
Yeah. And it also, we see that people, you know, even if you do have a traditional theory background, we all know the guitar player, the keyboard player that sits down and they play the same chord progression every single time because they're kind of in a musical rut.
Right.
This can get you out of that musical rut quite easily.
Awesome. So yeah, look, I've been there where I'm like, something doesn't sound right. Maybe it's a chord and maybe you don't even know how to play the chord you're looking for. Type it in the chord track and voila.
And just listen to it. Try out new chords that you never would otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. So is there anything before we go on to the next topic? I just want to make sure we
I'll show you something else. So if we wanted to take this particular aspect, like let's say I have a sketch of a song, we could actually tell like monophonic audio parts as well as MIDI parts to follow chords as we enter them in. So let's say I have like maybe it's just a quick sketch. So I will come here and type in chords, and it's going to change the music.
Ooh, I like that inversion a lot with the D. Oh, you can change the root.
So even if you have just like, you know, we see lots of people that have like hundreds of little sketches that never quite get done. So you could take those sketches and kind of develop them quite easily using the chord track.
So how is it coming up with those riffs and rhythms? Which is what I'm wondering.
This was like something that was just quickly programmed in, and you'll see that as I adjust like the chords over here, that you know it will just alter.
So the MIDI will change,
and it's going to change the musical parts just based on the chords that we've defined.
So essentially, I can be if I was like say a percussionist, and I went bump 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 bump, like say that was the groove. I could just select a chord and it'll figure out the notes. And then granted, you could rearrange the notes. You can change the inversion. So if you want that bump, 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 bump kind of thing, it'll just do it within that chord.
Yeah. And one of the great things is also if you're just here, you could also have MIDI input. So you're like, oh, I played this cool chord and I'll just randomly throw my hand down. It will tell you what chord it is that you've just played the notes of.
So in a way, it's an educational tool by accident.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Because I know when you play some keyboards, they'll show you on the notation what chords you're playing, and like just like this, show you what the chord is. But it's nice to see that even if you're, again, if you want to start talking music with people in the industry and be like, well, I figured out this chord, it was a C sharp with an F sharp in the bass, and it's like, now you understand how you're playing it, how it's being written, and how it sounds all together in one specific notion.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll show just one other aspect on
show us all the aspects if you can. Don't limit yourself to just one.
Let's say, like, you know, and we see a lot of people, you know, like I remember a friend of mine telling me a story that, you know, he played this most beautiful chord voicing, and he's kind of a gospel musician. And a lot of times they don't know what chords they play, but they play these beautiful chord voicings that no one else plays. And I asked him what chord it was, and he told me it was an Aunt Helen chord because his Aunt Helen taught him it, you know. But you may have, you know, MIDI parts, and let's say if we look at it in our score editor, you know, but a lot of times, you know, you can play these beautiful things, but you may not actually know what it is. So if you wanted to take a MIDI performance, we could go to under the project menu, and I could just select that piano part, and I could say create chord symbols, and it's now made the chord track based upon the actual notes that we see here. So this is just created the chords. And if I wanted to create a lead sheet for musicians to do, I could just go to my score editor and print that out as well.
That's okay. So for those that are watching, what is fascinating about all this chord track stuff is you can truly make, first of all, you can just make compositions on the fly so quickly, but like with this Aunt Helen chord thing, that you're able to make a whole composition based on a chord, in a sense. Like you could take one flashy chord, like there are people who rave about, John Petrucci recently talked about the Alex Lifeson chord, which is I think like an F sharp with the B and the E on top. I think that's the chord. I could be very wrong, forgive me. But there's that kind of cool concept where you're now in composition with some DAWs is like you've got it in your head, you're putting it down, that's it. But learning curve can be tricky in some respects, or the creativity of, like I said, accidental creativity kind of can get lost when you're performing, because you're like, this is the chord I want to do. But with this, you start noodling with stuff and you go, oh, I actually like that sound better. I like that chord better. I like how these chords play against each other. Like here, you have a very sophisticated row of chords happening, which I think is interesting. And that's, which is funny because I thought the chord thing would be one layer. Could you explain why I'm like seeing a G and then an E minor 7? I think that's
yeah. Sometimes it could be just that the chords are coming in.
Oh, so you see
quickly,
them
so
all when
just
you zoom
rhythmically
out.
as we zoom in, so it'll just kind of tuck them under. So
Okay, so then never mind. Yeah, that makes. I was about to say it'd be
Yeah.
clashing of chords if that was the case. Before we move on to the next topic, we'll give a minute to talk about. I should say, if anybody has questions, by all means, don't be shy. Ask. This isn't just watching myself and Greg talk about Cubase. We want your questions because this is the opportunity to ask an expert. That expert down below can answer whether you've been using Cubase for 20 some odd years, whether this is your first time even hearing about the program. He knows it. He knows everything there is to know about Cubase, and probably then some stuff that probably other people at Cubase haven't even figured out yet, that he figured out as keeping it secret. But jokes aside, please ask questions, because I'm telling you, there's no better expert to ask than this guy.
All right,
so
I'll show you one last great little thing about the chord track.
Perfect. Show us the chord track while hopefully someone will ask us a question or two.
I'm going to just open up like a virtual keyboard here, or like a software, but I can do this with any MIDI keyboard. But I just want to show you that I'm just going to play 3 notes here on a string patch. And what I could do is have in the chord track. So let's say I'm not a great keyboard player. Like my primary instrument is bass, and I should practice keyboards, but I just don't. But I can still be very musical. But we have this function called live transform. So I'm going to say we're going to follow the chords based on the chord track here. So I'm going to hit the same 3 notes. And even if this is an electronic drum kit or a drum pads, so even if you don't have a MIDI keyboard where you are, or you just have a computer keyboard, like the QWERTY computer keyboard, I'm going to hit play, and the strings will automatically just kind of follow. And I'm going to hit the same 3 notes, but it's going to map it to the chords based on the chord track. So we're going to play this ballad here. So you get the idea that you could just hit any 3 notes, and it's going to be able to transform that incoming MIDI information to the correct chords that were extracted from the piano part.
That's nuts. That's like super easy too. What was I going to say? No, that's really great. Oh, quick question. This is just a technical one, but Greg, if you don't mind, would you, when you're performing something that's coming out of Cubase, do you mind muting your microphone? Because I think it's trying to fight the sound
Okay.
coming from there. You don't have to do it right now. Just next time you play something,
Okay.
Just so that we can, because it sounds great, but we want to hear its full sound.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is fantastic. So utilizing chord track, we've only put our toe in what Cubase can do for EDM and production. But if you do production for either genre, so far this should help you out, especially because a lot of hip hop and EDM, nothing against the genres, I love listening to them, they tend to be a bit repetitive. So if you're looking for the right chords that repeat or the right MIDI notes that make the right notes and sounds, like, because sometimes a small phrase can be a whole beat for an entire song, whether it's a rhythmic track, but in this case, we're talking chords. You have a good section of chords, you can loop that for 10 hours and people will dig it. That is what makes a great EDM or hip hop track, is finding the smallest piece to make something catchy enough that it keeps repeating. Same goes for pop music. But right now we've got the chord track. Granted, you can utilize this for any genre, but it's definitely helpful if you're in hip hop and EDM and don't necessarily have that skill set music theory wise. So next thing we're going to check, which again is very helpful, is vocal processing and harmony generation. So I'm intrigued by this because I consider myself a guitarist first and a singer seventh. So the fact that if you're not the greatest singer, or you can't get you and a bunch of people to sing harmonies, personally, I'm very curious how this works. So Greg, take us into what vocal processing and harmony generation 1 is, because I know what it means to process vocals, but harmony generation, I'm not sure what that means, and how one could use that, whether producing EDM or hip hop.
So there's a lot of great tricks that people will do to kind of, alter the voice. So I will open up just one of the included plugins that comes with Cubase, and it's called a pitch shifter. So we'll just come over here, the pitch correct plugin. And a lot of times you may want to just take a voice and just kind of change kind of the characteristics. And I often get this where someone, I had a client that was doing a remix for an artist that had grown older over the years, and they needed to make the artist sound like she did when she was, in high school and getting all sorts of hit records. So one of the elements that they were able to do is with the pitch correct plugin, if you wanted to have that very processed sound that a lot of people are seeking to do for like EDM or electronica music and some hip hop stuff, I'll just kind of do it on this vocal, is we could actually just do kind of the pitch correct plugin here. So I can adjust my tolerance. So if you're looking for that kind of, effect that was made very popular with the share track way back when in Cubase. But one of the other great things we could do is just kind of shift the formants. So if I want the singer to sound younger, we'll just listen to it a little bit in context. You stare at the ground, never say, tell me So you can get kind of different vocal characteristics from the same voice, which is really helpful.
Yeah, you could basically go from sounding like Ariana Grande to Cher with one switch. Can you, out of curiosity, can you make it go like super low or super high or anything like that?
Sure. So
I'm just curious how wide of a range you can do with the vocals. Wow, you made her sound like Michael McDonald.
Yeah.
No, but that's awesome. I mean, just the fact that, because that's a big thing. I don't know what the term is in music, but a lot of hip hop producers and pop producers are doing this thing where the vocal imitates, and it goes like this, and it's like the same vocal, just stretched in a different frequency range.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, it's super easy how you do it with that. Literally, all it is just going up and down with that fader in a sense. I also love how it it figures out the frequency on that pseudo keyboard, so you can play around with like, oh, it's not quite F sharp she's singing, so maybe I need it to be up a half step, down a half step, or wow, she missed the note entirely. So, like I said, if you are not a musician or you're just getting into it, or you can't sing with a gun pointed to your head, this is what you use. This is it. It's just, oh, great, I can now sing. Granted, now if it's a live performance, we can't promise anything, nor is Sam Ash Music, Steinberg, or Cubase responsible if you perform live and it doesn't sound exactly the same. But what we're saying is you can definitely do it in the studio, and it's that easy. But that's now vocal processing. Is there more to it besides just doing that?
Yeah, so we also have an editor in the Cubase Pro version called Very Audio, and this allows us to, and we'll just kind of go full screen on this. So we could see kind of, Cubase can do an analysis of the parts here. So, and it's kind of broken down each of these notes, much like a MIDI sequencer. So if I wanted to take all these notes and graphically move them in tune, or if I wanted to straighten out the vibrato, we could do, very much kind of, almost a granular level. And again, this is without having to buy an additional expensive third-party tool. It's just part of Cubase. But we could also choose to colorize the notes based upon the chord track. So since we figured out what the chords were previously, we see that green notes fall within the actual chord. These kind of aqua colored notes fall within the scale, and the red notes fall outside of the key. So if I move this note to a red note, visually, I know that that's not going to work musically. So we say, okay, bad, red, just about every culture, red, stop. But if I move it to another green note.
This is jazz.
And if we wanted that note to last just longer, I could just stretch it out, and be able to adjust. If we see that the singer, tends to maybe drift flat, I could just go directly at the end of notes. I could just go and bring that up.
Whoa, that was so easy.
Yeah.
Because I know there are some programs, I'm not going to say that make it a little difficult to do stuff like that, but dang, that was easy.
And the beauty of this is, if you've moved a bunch of notes, everything can be, it falls into the undo history because it's truly integrated with Cubase.
That's very cool.
Now, since we know what the chords are, we thought it would be interesting. So, we have the chords that have been extracted from the piano part. So if we listen to just a little bit of phrase. So I see this is a C9 chord going to a G chord. I'm going to just select that particular phrase. And since we know what the chords are, I could go to my audio menu and we'll just say generate harmony voices. And I'll say give us up to 4 harmony voices. So we look at this. I'll just kind of drop the volume of these ever so slightly and we'll listen.
Dang.
So it's made to musically correct harmony. So it's not just giving you a major third and a perfect fifth that's going to be out of key with the particular chord. So that's usually pretty helpful for a lot of people.
That's really certainly would help me a lot. It came off kind of like, it had like a kind of Imogen Heap type thing going on, which I really dug. But the fact that, again, like, we're not even a half hour in, and you've basically covered 2 huge things for this program. So for those that are watching, it's not hard to use this program, nor is it to use some of these features, which, I mean, I love that fact, because, again, I haven't used this program yet. Might have to. But it is fantastic that these changes you have to make that in most cases you'd have to hire the people back and get another take or use some really expensive program to tweak this stuff. Cubase is basically saying, I got you, bro. Let's do this. Beep, 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 and you're done. So is there anything else that does anyone have questions? I should have this banner up because some people forget that we want questions. We're happy to answer any of your questions. Might as well just mention also we have a giveaway on headphones, so highly recommend you guys enter for that. But what else? Is there anything else we could do with vocal programming, vocal processing and harmony generation?
I think that's a lot of the things that, you know, people find very useful.
Great. And we can always come back to that if people tune in late and want to know more about that. But in the meantime, let's get to the fun stuff. Not that that wasn't fun, but the stuff that EDM producers and hip hop producers want to know. Bam, programming beats. That's like, that is it. That's all it takes to be a hip hop producer or an EDM producer nowadays. And then some. But let's get to the nitty gritty, the thing that these people want to know. How do you program beats? Is it difficult? Is it easy? What are things unique to Cubase? Let us find out. Greg, take it away.
Okay, so one of the included tools is, you know, in Steinberg, you know, we're the first company that actually, you know, decided to make virtual instruments, and we've invented ASIO, we invented VST instruments. So, you know, we've been doing software drum machines for over 20 years, and we want to give you the tools that kind of, you know, come with the program again. So, you know, and that's one of the themes that you'll see with Cubase is that you could do so much with the included tools. So we give you kind of a sampling drum machine. You could drag and drop samples directly into any sample. You could drag and drop from your project window, from your media bay over here. There's going to be different editing capabilities. You'll have different modes for playback, whether you wanted to emulate like a 12-bit sampler or like sampling where in the old days, the algorithm for, you know, when like your Akai sampler had 1 megabyte of memory, and you would sample like a 33 LP at 45 to save that extra, you know, 20K of memory, and those algorithms that people cherish. So we have kind of a very popular, very powerful sampling drum machine that's included. With this, there is a MIDI plugin called Beat Designer. And what Beat Designer is going to allow us to do is to, and we could use this with any program, and I'm just going to use it with some of the included sounds here. And I will just say, you know, it is a pattern-based sequencer that's going to be directly integrated. So I'll just clear a pattern, and let's say I just want to start playing just a little bit here, and I will just throw in maybe just a couple of kicks. And if you wanted to increase the velocity of these, like maybe this one a little softer. And let's just put in a couple of snare hits. And you could just kind of freely experiment. You could also put in different flams if you wanted to just kind of tap on particular notes. And I could select different sounds that are directly from this. So let's put in a couple, maybe a clap or two. And let's put in, I'll just randomly put in some hi-hats, take some away, I'll increase. And so if we just bring in, you know, some additional elements as we go around. So there's also some interesting options where I could say, okay, let's just, and I could shift all these over to the right. So if I just wanted to change the feel entirely, or let's shift it to the left. So if I like that feel, you know, this could perfectly synchronize with my project, or I could just say, I wanted to take the Beat Designer and I could just insert that pattern at the cursor. And as we do that, it's just now in my timeline. And I could just take this particular part and copy it over and over again. Now, once we have this, I could also just take a different part here. And as I do this, sorry, you may hear my son knocking on the door. I'm just going to take a bass patch from a synth called Retrolog. So as I come over here, we could just open up Retrolog, which is, again, included. And I put on a MIDI insert called Arpachi. So I could just kind of play just a normal sound. So if I'm just kind of playing along, but I could also put on just a quick arpeggiator as well. So at this point, I could just come over here and play a chord. So I'll play that, and I'll just kind of hit a chord. And that could automatically just generate as I change notes within the chord. And one of the great things that we could also do inside of Groove Agent is the ability of kind of working more intelligently with different drum loops. So if I wanted to find drum loops from, let's say, different parts, we could audition different drum loops here. And then I could drag those directly onto the pad. And if I wanted to now slice these up, I could just say, I'm going to go to my slice tab. And now it could automatically create slices across multiple pads if you wanted to. So you could have those kind of be like Rex files so that you could easily construct and deconstruct different loops. So as you can see with kind of the Groove Agent that's included, not only do you have tons of great content that comes with it, but you could have the ability of, having it like a software sampler built in. All right, hang on just 1 second. Let me talk to my son. I'm just going to mute. Okay.
No problem. So, not a problem at all. So while he's talking to his son in the meantime, hope you guys have questions. So Manny is asking, and when Greg gets back, which model, I believe because he's the master of Cubase, is using Cubase Pro, whatever the latest update is. And so it's got basically everything he's showing is in there. I don't personally, like I said, this is my first rodeo learning all things Cubase. So if you have these questions, I'm just trying to answer for him because he had what you would call a technical difficulty right now. Is just his son needed something. With all that being said, hopefully, you know what? I'll take this moment to say that while you're tuned in, shop at Sam Ash Music. We're pretty great. You can call us at 1-800-4-SAM-ASH, and right now we've got 24-month financing on tons of products, including stuff by Cubase and Steinberg. So what it is 0% interest for 24-month financing. I don't have the numbers broken down, but basically you pay it off over the course of 2 years, and you can get all these wonderful programs. I'm actually being told this version he's using is Cubase Pro 10.5. So if you're looking for it and you love everything you see and you want to throw your money at the wall and hope it all sticks, Cubase Pro 10.5. Let's bring back Greg. Greg, everything cool?
Yep. I think he's awesome. He just wanted to show me something on his show. Sorry about that.
That's cool. We get it.
Pandemic parenting.
No, I know. Look, one day that'll be me. Not anytime soon. I don't want to not that I have any problem having kids. I just don't want people going, Ben's having a kid? His wife's pregnant? Oh my God. It's not happening yet. Promise you, the announcement will be there when it happens. So all that being said, Manny was asking which model. We covered it. It's Cubase Pro 10.5. Again, see, it's that easy. Just ask us a question. But to go back into programming beats, again, I love that there's just this simplicity of trying to get just putting in the drum beats, switching the drum beats. I like that the fact you can shift them. So if you want to feel the vibe differently, I do that sometimes where I'll have a drum beat that I made up, and then I'll press play at a random spot to see if it feels or sounds different. But this is definitely a cleaner way to do it than just pressing play and pause. But yeah, is there anything else you can show us as far as programming beats are concerned? And I should note we have 20 minutes, so I want to make sure we cover everything. We've got.
Yeah, move on if you want.
You know what? Let's do that. So let's cover everything, and we can always jump back if we need to. And I'm sure some of this stuff will be covered again in a future live stream anyway. But let's talk about creative use of LFOs. So first of all, for the layman, what is an LFO?
So, LFO kind of has two different, definitions in our industry. Some people will consider like a low frequency oscillator as part of a synthesizer, but also it's going to be kind of low frequency oscillation. And that basically just means kind of musically changing something, like maybe a parameter on a synth, so that you don't have to like move the knob a zillion times, that it'll just kind of do it in more of an automated manner. So if I wanted to, we could just take a listen to maybe something that's not so incredibly exciting, something like a synth pad and a bass. So if I wanted to take, this, and we'll show you how you could take something that's very simple and make it a bit more interesting. And we have these plugins that are called an auto LFO. And what the auto LFO is going to allow us to do is, again, to say, I wanted to take this synthesizer sound, this pad, and I want to take like MIDI CC10, which will be panning. So as we wanted to listen to this, I will now, instead of just this sound playing just one note, it's going to move from side to side automatically as we do this. So we'll listen. And we have this set up to do this for every 4 beats.
Oh, so you could do it by beat rather than just kind of random that some programs have, where it's just going to move. Okay, very cool. So it's a much more fine-tuned way of automation, in a sense.
Yeah. And now what I could do is say I wanted the volume to automate by 16th notes. So what was just kind of like whole note, a synth pad sound, can now. So now it's panning and adjusting the volume very fast. So without those two LFO sounds, just kind of very boring, and just kind of incorporating those. So the volume and the pan as well. Now we could also do this for different parameters on like an instrument themselves. So if I wanted to take this instrument sound here, this retro log, and again, this is included with Cubase, and I wanted to play a sound.
Oh, that's dense.
And I wanted to create kind of like maybe like a wobble kind of effect. And often that would be just by moving this like a cutoff filter very fast, but you kind of feel like an idiot just moving that and trying to automate that. So what I did is, put an auto LFO on that. So when we go to the MIDI inserts, that this will move that particular parameter on the synth for us. So if we look at that parameter in the synth, we see that just automatically moving to accommodate that. And we add some simple drums to it. So what was really kind of, very easy, like you could do this in 10 seconds, entering in the notes, just turning this on and off. And those are some like great tips for, hip hop and EDM production, just to make things more rhythmically interesting, give that little bit of ear candy without spending a lot of time trying to tweak and get the different parameters set up.
That's very cool. I'm loving that retro log. I mean, That thing is, it's got a lot of knobs. Like if you're a Moog type person, you'll probably just have a lot of fun using this program because that's dense. I mean, obviously we don't have to go too in depth with it because I feel like just talking about this one plugin will take up 2 hours.
You do like a 3-hour presentation just on this one plugin, but
But
it's kind of everything you'd want in a virtual analog synthesizer.
But that is so cool. I mean, again, if you can't, I mean, if anyone can afford a classic Moog, it's gonna be at least 4 or 5 figures, and depending on which one you get. But here you go, you got something similar, if not more complex, in a way of just more manipulation of tone. So I think that's a bargain. And I'm curious, does this come with the Elements version, or is it only an Artist or Pro model?
I think you get it in Artist and Pro. I could be mistaken, but you could always check. There's a really detailed comparison chart with this.
Okay.
So
look, if you're watching this,
versions.
If you're watching this, it doesn't hurt to pony up for some Artist or Pro stuff because you can do this and more. I mean, granted, the features themselves you can do as far as I believe you can do chord track regardless of which version you have. But as far as these plugins and these extra things, you can really get the most out of it. So is there before we move on to the next thing, is there anything we have to discuss as far as LFOs?
I think that's pretty much. I know we have a couple other things to get to. So
all right, sure. So let's talk about using the sampler track. Another very important thing when doing hip hop and EDM. For those that don't know, sampling is essentially is taking an already made sound, as in not just like a keyboard chord, but like taking a song or a piece from a song you like and putting it into yours and manipulating that song or that chord or that riff into something new. It could be just taking it and changing the key of it. It could be taking it and speeding it up and slowing it down. It could be taking it and chopping it up. So I'm very curious how the sampler track works in Cubase. I know Greg's going to probably wow us with just how crazy you can take with these sounds. So Greg, show us what the sampler track's all about.
Yeah, so when we do this, we wanted something to be very fast and, easy and very practical for doing a lot of different work. So let's say if I just wanted to, and you get lots of content directly with Cubase as you start working with it. So if you wanted to just come over here, you could have all your different loops. And if I wanted to take a particular sound, I could just right click on it and create a sampler track. At this point, you could do your different editing. Say, I want this to start right at this point. I want the sample to end. We could do all sorts of different looping options if you wanted it. You could also just reverse. So as soon as I've done this, I can now just play the particular sound, just that easily. Now, as most samplers work, as you play higher, the sample plays back faster. If you play back lower, it's slower. So if you wanted to actually kind of mitigate that, you could put it into audio warp. So now you can just play the same speed regardless of the pitch. So if you have like a little guitar solo, if you have a little vocal, you could actually even take, any audio file that's on the project window here and just drag and drop, and you could now play that as a sample file just that quickly. And as we work with this, there's kind of a unique mode because we have a lot of people that want to do, as they're working with different work, is, a unique monophonic mode where we could have a glide set up. So if I wanted to come here and I'm going to hold the note down and play a note higher, like 2 octaves higher. And you could adjust the amount and speed of the glide. So if you want to be really slow. So, and that's a very common kind of production trick in a lot of hip hop stuff. So, but being able to just freely take anything, and then once you're done, you could just simply save it as a preset and use it in any project that you want. So if you wanted to be working more with you know, drum hits or vocal things. You could do that very fast. Just take, you know, and a lot of times you may be, oh, the singer left and I wanted to take, you know, that drum idea and just pitch it down. So instead of having to go through and do processing, you could just drag it directly into the sampler track and just try out different ideas very quickly and get creative. And you'll have full access to different filters that will be included. So if you want to come here and be able to adjust your different filters as you see fit, it's very simple to work with. So, and again, just something to be very fast and creative and coming up with fresh, new, interesting sounds. And that's what the kind of the intention of the sampler track. And you could also just drag and drop samples. You know, if you wanted to do more layered samples, you have the capability of dragging and dropping directly into Groove Agent as well. But I could take an existing sample and just come right here and say, oh, let's just transfer it to Groove Agent SE. And now I have everything automatically mapped for Groove Agent automatically.
So that's nuts. Is there any chance of chopping up the track by any way? Or like, it's great how you can manipulate one thing, but I know there are some programs you can chop. Is there anything you can do that's wildly intuitive in general with sampling? That
yeah, so if I wanted to chop, I could do that currently inside of Groove Agent. So let's say if I just wanted to come to the beat here, so let's say I just wanted to have, so if I have that on a pad, I could just come here and then just create my slices. And now each pad will be automatically sliced just like that. So, you know, so if you needed to do more slicing, just simply hit the one button and you could do it directly inside of Groove Agent SE and right click and you could save a kit that you could load up. And, you know, we have a lot of our users that have the ability of making your own samples and being able to sell their own sample libraries to other Cubase users quite easily.
That's super. So far, what I love about this is how easy all of these programs are to use, plugins, I should say, and features. Again, if you got a question, let us know because Greg's got all the answers. And so far, I'm loving this program. And look, if you're into hip hop or EDM, I can't imagine why you would use anything else. But let's check out interactive performance controls. Now, that could mean a lot. Now, I'm assuming this means if you're playing at a gig or when we're all allowed to play gigs, or if you're doing a live stream performance, these are ways you can use the this DAW Cubase to play around with performances. Like you can cue things in and out, and you can change features as you're performing. Before we dive into that, Manny wants to know how much it sells for and what would be a good sound card to go with it. So we actually have it on samash.com for, if you want Elements, it's $99. And if you want Artist, it is $302. I don't know why that is such a specific number, but they're both available on samash.com. Do you have a recommendation of what sound card to use with it besides whatever your computer is handling?
You know, we have a UR series of Steinberg interfaces. So like for an entry level, like a UR22 Mark II or UR22C are wonderful interfaces. So, you know, they have 192K. It's a metal chassis. It's, you know, has MIDI built in, wonderful sounding D pre mic preamps. So there's kind of a 2 mic pre, a 4 mic pre, and an 8 mic pre unit in those series. And those are just wonderful interfaces. Like, you know, pre-COVID, I used to be the guy that traveled on like 100+ flights a year. And I had, you know, one of the interfaces for like 4 or 5 years in my backpack. And it was just, you know, where every other interface probably would have died with my extensive travel, just, you know, turned on and worked every single day. So like the UR22 for like a 2 in, 2 out interface with MIDI is a wonderful solution to go for.
Awesome. And of course, if you're looking for any Steinberg or Cubase products, we do have them at samash.com. If for whatever crazy reason we don't have it in stock, we can absolutely order it for you, or have it, or if you're at a store that doesn't have it in stock, we can have it shipped to your home. We can have it shipped to another store. Point is, if it's somewhere in the vast Samash music terrain of all
Which
of
is
our
vast.
stores, of all of our warehouses, we'll get it to you. We will find a way to do that. All right, fantastic. So let's get more into this interactive performance control, because I think this is very cool that, again, you can truly manipulate your sounds, not just as you've recorded, you've exported it, it's now on Spotify. This is if you're live and you're a DJ and you're just a beat maker and you want to replay tracks, or you want to do weird filter sweeps. Something tells me Cubase is able to do that and then some. So great.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to show is the Loop Mash FX, which is again an included plugin. And we notice that these controls look like a piano keyboard, because they could respond in real time to different MIDI messages. So I'm going to just play this track, and we could perform this in real time via MIDI, or we could automate these different parameters, but just kind of show you what it could do. So I'll play a little bit, make sure I don't kill you volume wise. So say as we're doing this, so if I want to do like stutters, so it allows you to do those types of effects, which, you know, I've seen like my friends Teddy Riley and others have spent like months setting up different, you know, software configurations to accomplish this. And you show them this and they're like, oh, I just wasted so many months of my life when I could just have this immediate reaction and interact with the music in a different way once you think the song is complete, so you can take it to a whole other level.
Damn, I mean, like, this is crazy. You really can just do everything and then some, as far as and what I love about it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you can arguably record your live performance. So if you love the way that you hit the filter sweep on something, or the chop of something else, it's still there. Like, after you pack up your laptop and your whole entire set, it's still on your computer, and you can be like, hey, this is the live performance I did, which is exactly. Look, I'm a guitar player first, and I know recording live instruments like that is a huge pain for a lot of people. And one of the things we worry about is, okay, if we want to film our performance, we got to get the right mix from the board, and we've got to get the right filming. Here, you're basically saying, focus more on the filming, because we've got the audio taken care of in Cubase. You just have to press record. You just have to perform. And if you can get the video to match up with your audio, you're golden.
Yeah.
Heck, you don't even probably have to mess with anything with the mix. With like a guitar and a bass and a drum, that's a whole conversation. But that's, oh boy.
Yeah, and every tool that we showed today comes standard with Cubase Pro 10.5. So it's not like you buy Cubase and you have to, you know, invest like thousands of dollars in third-party tools. This is all just standard included functionality with Cubase.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy that you can do all this stuff with this. Is there anything else before we, because that's kind of it, honestly. I mean, we've got literally a minute left, arguably, but we're happy to take more questions. We're happy to go over more stuff. And if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. But I think there's so much cool stuff you can do with this program. Is there anything that you like, Greg, that fits into this, that maybe is a combination of some of the topics, or just something you're like, look what I figured out, and this is very cool?
I like that it just, the thing I like about Cubase, and when I see other people working in different other programs, I see them kind of predisposed to come up with the same type of project because of the tools and the workflow that are kind of imposed by the tool, the software that they're using. Whereas I think it's Cubase, and as we watch some of the other clinics, like with different topics, that you could take some of these concepts and apply it for working with bands or working as a film composer, because we see people that are doing a bit of everything, especially these days. So if you are a film composer and you need to do a little bit of EDM or hip hop project, even if it's like I need to do the music for a scene in a club, Cubase will have that tool for you, even if it's not your particular area that you get into. But if you ever get the situation where you need to do any type of production work with Cubase, Cubase will deliver for you.
Because I was just on the Cubase site and I was just checking out some of the people who have used this. And I mean, first of all, I was actually very surprised, because I love these guys, that Chromeo uses Cubase for production. They're one of my favorite bands ever. I even have a framed signed picture in my office right here with a VIP thing. I love those guys. And
yeah, they're the greatest guys in their studio we went to in Burbank last year. We did a video with them, and they're just it's the greatest vibe hanging out with those guys.
I bet. I envy you, because for those that aren't familiar with Chromeo, they're considered electro-funk, but it's like a modern take on the best of that 80s kind of R&B, Roger Troutman type stuff, because they use Talkbox a lot. But I don't think there's a bad song they've written, because everything, if you just play shuffle of Chromeo at a party, everyone's gonna have
everyone's happy.
Yeah. But also, I'm looking at your site. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name accurately, but Hildur Guðnadóttir.
Mm-hmm. She's the film composer, did The Joker. She won the Oscar for it this past year.
And Chernobyl. I mean, she's and her scores are fantastic. I've seen both, and the scores are fantastic for both, and both are worth seeing. But and then, I mean, the Mr. Composer Hans Zimmer is a Cubase guy. I mean, if there was ever a reason to use Cubase, Hans Zimmer. I mean, the guy's won Oscars galore. He's scored the biggest movies. I'm sure think about this, guys. For those that are watching, Hans Zimmer used Cubase to make the sound/meme, the brum sound.
Netflix,
that came from Cubase. Without Cubase, you may not have the brum kind of sound. So every time you play that, or you see a YouTube video, or some other ridiculous reason you hear brum, just think Cubase. Think Hans Zimmer, because thanks to Hans Zimmer and Cubase, it exists. But yeah, this is such a cool program, and and in an hour we were able to cover everything feature-wise for, granted, EDM and hip hop. I'm sure there's much more specific things for different genres, but it's fantastic that you can do that with all that. You could do all these things for those genres of music with this program. I did want to make sure that before we left, one, if you have any more questions, please ask, by all means. And not only that, but we've got to announce not one, but two winners for this headphone contest. So I am just drawing up the next winner, if you guys don't mind. But please ask any questions you have. And again, we'll be very happy to answer them for you. It could be Sam Ash related. It can be Cubase related. It could just be Steinberg related in general. Let's see what we got. Forgive me, it's just taking a long time. But I think someone did have a question before. It's not Cubase related. Do you guys take trade-ins? Yes, we do. We take tons of trade-ins. And I should bring that up because you can use those trade-ins. So like you bring it, if you want to buy Cubase, you can use the money you're trading in for towards Cubase. So hey, if you want to get Cubase, that's a great way to save some money on it. Hold on one sec. I don't know why this is taking so long. Forgive me. I think we only technically have two winners because I keep getting one winner that is exactly the same person, And so I just want to make sure I'm getting the second winner because I can't give 2 headphones to one guy.
You'd be very lucky winner.
Yeah, really. I was like, right, it seems we technically only have 2 people. So, and it's funny because one of them has technically won from another contest, but fair is fair. So I'm going to write these names down. I don't know. Can you do a drum roll on there? Is there a way? I always like to do that if possible.
I could probably find one here. Give me a second. So keep going.
So, technically, I say technically, there is a winner of ours that's won a different pair of headphones. And look, we've been here. We said you can enter. Nothing stopped anybody, so it's fair is fair. So we're going to announce the winners right now. Do you have a form of drums? It could be anything. I just like doing this for fun.
Yeah. Give me just. I'll see if I can get it after. So.
All right, no sweat. And look, if you, like I said, if you guys have comments or anything, we're happy to answer. Technically, the show's over, but we want to make sure we announce the winners live. So, but thank you guys for tuning in. We do appreciate it. These are always fun to do for me because the more I do live streams, the more I learn about the music industry at large and all the gear that everybody has. And it's just cool to talk about. We're on the web. We're showing off Cubase. And we're talking about all the cool features it has. And Greg's a brilliant guy when it comes to Cubase. So I hope that we also tune in for a future show, all of you that have tuned in, and tell your friends. Because, again, we've got giveaways. We've got loads of information for you to take in. And so how are we doing with that drum roll? If not, don't sweat over it. I'll just go.
Sorry.
Okay, don't worry about it. Next time we'll load something up. Yes. But in the meantime, the winners, 2 winners of the HPH MT5 headphones goes to Devin Castor and Nicholas Patterson.
All right.
Congratulations, guys. You each are going to get a pair of the MT5s. I will reach out to both of you separately. You just have to send us your shipping address, and we'll send them right to you ASAP. Is there anything else we should mention about Steinberg and Cubase in general before we head out? Greg, is there anything you would like to say just in general?
Yeah, I think this is, I think we have several of these plans to look maybe in about 2 weeks, and we'll try to have kind of different genres covered. But I thought this was a lot of fun. Thank you, Ben.
Absolutely. And thank you. I didn't realize what Cubase could do. This is my first rodeo learning about all this stuff. So yeah, I mean, if what are we thinking about doing as far as next week? What was the plan? Do you happen to know?
I think we were thinking maybe Cubase for working with bands, like for working with drum parts, working with guitar and bass, and maybe working with headphone mixes.
Because like I am a guitarist and I need to know this stuff because miking and all that stuff. Like right now, we've just talked about only things that have nothing to do with even a microphone. I mean, arguably the vocal recordings, but as far as the production part and mixing, we haven't talked about how to use a mic in conjunction with things. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Congratulations to Devin and Nicholas, where you're going to hear from me either today or tomorrow. Greg, thank you so much for your wisdom and for all of your advice and all of these awesome features that you've spelled out for us in the simplest of ways. And don't forget to shop at samash.com. You can call us at 1-800-4SAMASH. You can visit us, like I said, at the website. We also have representatives that can help you if Greg didn't answer something for you, God forbid, on Cubase. Our guys know Cubase as well. We have all the different versions of Steinberg and Cubase products for you at the best price you're going to find them. And if you find them at a better price, we will match that price plus $1. That is a fact. So that being said, Greg, thank you so much once again.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. And we can't wait to see you next time we do one of these. Stick around. Always visit Facebook and YouTube to see what the next live stream is. Can't wait to see you for the next one and the next Steinberg Cubase one. And on that note, see you guys next time. Take care.